Sonic recolors are one of the more controversial art communities on the internet, because technically they aren't even drawings of characters, it's just painting over other existing characters from games or TV shows, which is why they are considered to be the most annoying parts of the Sonic fanbase. And what I'm talking about today on the history of old YouTube was the most infamous, and that recolor was Bludshot the Hedgehog. Bludshot was a recolored fan character well known during the mid-2000s. It's a YouTube series on a recolor, a genre of art that's very despised, given it a very unfortunate reputation. It's just a Sonic but painted red, or shadowed depending on the picture. It was also shamelessly trying too hard to be cool, and it looked absolutely stupid. And for a while, the series was infamous. It had tons of ridicule, with tons of parodies making fun of the story and concept. Bloodshot's story is one of revenge against Dr. Eggman, who burnt down his entire village, which is also a ripoff of Naruto. So, as you see, it's not the most original premise out there, and it looks like total garbage, and the person making it does not have any drawing skills. So yeah, it's pretty obvious why no one liked it. What made Bloodshot different from the norm was attempting to have an anime-inspired story with other people involved doing the voice acting. Although I will admit that the voice actor for Eggman is alright.
You're a pest, not even worth dealing with. Do you really want to test me, boy?
Now Bloodshot's voice, on the other hand...
Eggman! Dr. Eggman, this is the day you die. Are you serious? Unforgivable! I will destroy you!
Yeah, this was filmed in a Skype group chat. Unfortunately, none of the people involved were able to draw or animate, since many of the pictures used were recolors of Sonic X slideshowed, with effects done by Windows Movie Maker, to at least pass off as some type of animation, really stretching the suspension of disbelief there. Though I think people outside that fanbase won't buy into it. See, you gotta flip the image and simulate turning heads. It's very amateur. Sometimes it's not even screenshots. They just stick in sprite art just because. Probably one of the most well-known thing about Bloodshot is its use of the Full Metal Alchemist scene from the first anime. And apparently Nickelback and Linkin Park were used a lot too. The YouTube account posted also went by Bloodshot, but in the end credits, he simply goes by Ryan. While the creator's friends did help him work with the project, majority of the drawing, writing, and editing were all done by him. It's pretty obvious the only people who will like this premise are those who are familiar and interested in fan characters already. And this community is pretty weird. Almost every other community, whether it be anime or video games, will have their own fan fictions of fan characters. I mean, after all, there's tons of fan Pokemon that exist. But Sonic specifically sticks out to a lot of people, since any core idea for a fan character can easily be vomited out by someone with no real talent. Sometimes all you have to do is type in your name and poof, there's a fan character. But I think there's many factors on why this happens in the Sonic franchise specifically. Many of the Sonic characters themselves are very simple and colorful, thus making it very easy to create your own characters with a very common base. It doesn't help that Sonic Team would also make a new character every other game. Then came 2004 when the Sonic X anime aired on the Fox Box. While the anime itself was fairly divisive, it showed all the character designs in a clean art style that's a lot more pleasing to the eye than the graphics of the game. It brings to life the anime-inspired artwork shown in bit pieces in the modern games. Well, at the time. And because the art style was simple enough, and one can use basic MS Paint to pass off one character to be another, although the results can vary. I mean, a lot of them are very choppy and obvious, but good enough for them. However, you won't find ones that break the mold, like Omega, or Big, or Vector, Chip. And you also had Sonic Adventure 2, which really changed the franchise. Not only was the game very memorable and well liked in the series, a lot of it had to do with Shadow, who was the edgy anti-hero not seen before the franchise. and like many similar anti-heroes before him, he was only meant to show up in one story arc, until the fan reaction was strong enough to bring him back, which only shows how popular this archetype is in general. So it's no surprise that brooding hedgehogs are popular here. Unlike most cliches, Shadow isn't Sonic's twin brother, or an evil clone of Sonic. In fact, Shadow's backstory has almost nothing to do with Sonic, which involves a 12-year-old girl getting shot dead. Sonic Adventure 2 was also very dark, even compared to most of the Sonic games. The plot takes itself far too seriously and can get needlessly complicated that sometimes it feels like Metal Gear Solid Jr. Like there's a scene where Eggman puts a gun to Amy's head. What the hell? And because the story was so dark, it would inspire many imitators with less restrictions on fanfiction, while also not feeling too out of place, which seems to be somewhat common on niche parts of geek culture, on certain kids shows like this, where they go a little more sci-fi and take themselves a little more seriously, where what is kid-friendly and what is mature gets crossed over and blurred. Eventually, Shadow the Hedgehog will get his own game, which will involve him with guns, vehicles, and swearing, saying the D word and H word. The game itself is a direct sequel to Sonic Adventure 2, as well as having non-canonical endings where Shadow kills Eggman or thinking he's a robot. And to many people, this was a warning sign that the franchise was getting worse. Like, look at all this edgy crap. It looks so freaking stupid. I love it. I'm one of the few people that think Shadow the game is a little underrated, but it's in a choose-your-own-adventure style that I don't see in any other games these days. The GameCube version is decent, but it plays like crap on the Xbox and PS2, which is partially why I so hate it. By the way, what I'm saying is a scolding hot take here, so I guess you can imagine how stupid it looks with Bludshot using guns and knives, since the game seems to be a major inspiration for the character. So, where am I going with this? Well, I think all the little things I talked about, and some creativity from people with autism, is what led to situations that you see here. Now, whether that be a positive or a negative thing is all up to you to decide. So, let's get back to Bludshot and talk about the episodes it had. Now, the first episode specifically goes over Bloodshot's backstory. I kinda like how they go to past Bloodshot, they use the Sonic CD cutscenes. I get it. Eggman burns down his entire village, only to see some form of potential in the hedgehog. And in doing so, he just gives him some shoes. The village was named Anthrax. But maybe it's foreshadowing for Eggman's real motive, as the village was actually spreading the fatal disease, and of course it's not. I'm pretty sure the name was chosen because it had an accident and it sounded cool. There is an 11-year time skip, or 11 and 3 months, where Bloodshot is ready to take revenge. Look at him go! Bloodshot meets him again and transforms into, Super Bloodshot? The only difference is that Bloodshot has a black head. However, Eggman leaves, and it seems he doesn't want to kill him as he really wants to make use of him. Something I would imagine could be a very good excuse for the writer. Now, that's the first episode, which is roughly 10 minutes long. Well, technically 8 minutes since there's an overly long intro. And there were 4 more episodes made, but most of them were introducing other characters. Bloodshot's sidekick Jake the Rock Fox, yeah, that's his name, who was described to be a comic relief character who annoyed the hell out of Bloodshot, and the audience apparently. Jake is Tails, but yellow, which is pretty weird since Tails is pretty yellow already. Another character that gets introduced is Rocky the Boxing Echidna. Gee, I wonder who this character is based on. Rocky, like Jake, is just another strange recolor, being just a darker shade of red, with very little change in the design. We are getting Rose Shoes level of unoriginal here. At least with most other recolors I've seen, they try to make something different. This just looks like Tails and Knuckles looking like a stock enemy in a Digimon game. Now, Rocky has a strange accent. Sometimes it sounds Jamaican, other times it sounds like a French accent. Rocky does get a redesign where he's green instead of dark red, which can be a little confusing looking all this up because there's another character with a similar appearance, named Blitz the Hedgehog, who's a spin-off character and also based on Echidna, although unlike the main show, it's all text-based. I have no clue what this all is. I'm guessing this is how most Recolor videos are usually like. I actually kind of dismissed this video because it didn't fit the rest, and I thought this was made by a Bloodshot fan or something. Blitz is apparently a fan of wrestling, NASCAR, and Metallica. By the way, he also has this very unfortunate symbol when he turns super. And there's other characters who didn't have the chance to show up, like this SBO recolor named Jinx. Then there's Ruby the Hedgehog, who was one of the main female characters, but meant to show up at episode 6 or 7. but the show was cut up before she appeared. And because of that, there are barely any girls in the show, so I can see why there were so many gay jokes in this parody. Although I find it hilarious that we colored boobs in her design. In the first episode, Bludshot is aided by a demon of some kind.
You'll get your revenge, but you will need my help. So I will make you a deal. Do we have a deal? Yes, we have a deal!
Though I don't think it's one of the characters I just talked about, but I think is the real main antagonist of the series. But that's the series. Then there are these other characters who I can't tell are jokes or not, like Goth the Cat or Emo the Hedgehog. But apparently there's some confirmation that they're real. And then there's other characters who I don't even know who the hell they are. There were 5 episodes made, but I could only get the first and last episode, and that's just barely. But even the ones I did manage to find were all commentaries from other people. The first episode was a fairly big punching bag, so I found at least 3 separate commentaries. Also, the main reasons you don't see many clips of Bludshot in this video is because they're all talked over. The rest are lost media. So, when I made the decision to look at cringy or terrible art like Sonichu or Lightbringer, I felt that it was appropriate to look at Bludshot. And since it's fading more and more, it's best I do it now than never. For episode 2, 3, and 4, I only have their basic plot summaries from ED, and take their word for it of what came after. However, it just seems they're just introducing the rest of the characters. The next few episodes try to establish Bloodshot's new friends, Jake and Rocky. Jake finds a Chaos Emerald, which would be important to the plot, I guess. And there appears to be numerous boring fights with Eggman's robots, which I imagine are from Sonic X or something. It appears that episode 4 and 5 had terrible quality as they were filmed on a screen by a camera, lowering the quality making it even worse. I'm guessing this was a way to not get the video taken down for copyright or something. Can't say I don't sympathize. There was a reason I used that ugly border that one time. While the quality is said to be worse, and I guess I've gone further beyond because episode 5's commentary is also filmed on a camera at a screen. We are done with establishing our characters, who thankfully weren't that deep in the first place. But there is another Sonic Recolor that shows up out of nowhere to break the 4th wall. I suppose it's supposed to be the creator, I'm not really sure. By the way, he has a Buster Sword. The trio tries to form the Sonic Hero structure. Yeah, this is his actual drawing skill so far. However, the trio have a hard time working together and being a proper Sonic team. Rocket confronts Bludshot if it's really right to kill Eggman despite the atrocity he committed. However, this gets cut off over a giant robot attack. The trio are victorious, dubbing themselves Team Blood, because of course it is. And there's also some noticeable swearing. Bludshot says the S word. Now the questioning revenge stuff is as much character development as you could get, which isn't deep at all, it's like deep as a puddle. But what does come after it? I don't really know since it's cancelled. As a response to the criticisms, Bloodshot character did get a little bit of a redesign, with plans to remake the episodes. However, even that's lost too, so I can't really find it. And ironically enough, the only way I could find some of these designs is from a parody that shows to use them. Now, according to the ED page, there was at least 20 more episodes planned. Now, it's kinda hard to know if this is real or not, but the titles don't seem too outrageous. Although episode 7 is just called Arab. Okay. The series is formatted like your basic action anime. It seems there's an episode where they wanted to go into the Haunted Mansion Sonic Heroes, which probably just means that music would be blaring the entire time. However, there seems to be a 4-parter of Jake getting kidnapped, with Bloodshot and friends trying to save his useless ass. And it seems the gang split from one another, with Bloodshot going to Ice Cap Zone or something. Eventually, they'll meet even more edgy and stupid characters like Mystrio, Cypher, Soul, Woo, whatever this is supposed to be. But where's Emo? I want to see Emo the Hedgehog, dude. Why is he so sad? I want to know. You also don't see other Sega characters like Sonic or Tails, or even Shadow. It sort of feels like its own original series, but with Sonic characters slapped on. But despite its dark nature, from the episode titles, none of the characters seem to subvert some expectation, or do anything too edgy or unique with it. Although the final episodes might hint something, and it seems that Rocky's talk in episode 5 was absolutely for nothing, because in episode 20 implied that Eggman dies. Now like I said, episode 1 implied that Bludshot had the demon or whatever helping him. My guess is it's actually this Ezekiel the Demon character, and I'm pretty sure this is his design in the opening. And killing Eggman might have released him or something. One episode is called Enter Super Bloodshot, but we've already seen Super Bloodshot since episode 1. The next episode appears that he's out of control and needs his friends to help him. Does he rarely use a super form? Is this an evil form? Was he already a demon? So after his friends help him, he becomes Hyper Bloodshot and would defeat the real enemy of the series, Ezekiel. Because even though it seems that Bloodshot's motive for revenge is cathartic for the writer, there does seem to be somewhat of a punishment that Bloodshot has to go through. And some of these titles talk about a prophecy, which is misspelled. Now I like to think that Bloodshot had to think twice about killing Eggman, since killing him will cause some sort of demon that will cause Armageddon or something, and hurt all of Bloodshot's friends and the world around him. Was Bloodshot purposely ignoring it because he's too angry to care, making the situation a lot worse? Although I highly doubt that's the case. I think it's likely they ripped out some anime they watched, as he beats a super bad guy with no real introspection. Everyone happy, the end. Pretty ironic since the main intro for the series is the Full Metal Alchemist opening. Then again, it is a 2003 version, which was a lot more cynical, without much of the depth in the later half that people liked. Now, am I saying that Bloodshot would be Kino if it was inspired by Brotherhood instead? Yes. So, this is pretty difficult, since I'm following the story over episode titles that may not be properly sought out. And like I said, the series isn't that deep. Although I am curious of what they would do for the last arc. No one really knows what's going on in the story except for Ryan himself. And by the time of the 5th episode, the group were harassed to a point where they just stopped making more. To add more fuel to the fire, Ryan's account was also hacked, so any more motivation to write the story slowly faded away. And apparently some of the episodes themselves were also taken down from YouTube. Since then, Bloodshot just became a joke within the Sonic fanbase, before being totally forgotten. Now, I also want to note that one of the major communities that criticized Bloodshot would eventually have their community be spun into the slideshow commentary community, where there was tons of Sonic Recolor fans in their midst. Were they fans? Were they potential fans? I guess. Could they be A-logs? Also very likely. That was sort of the main point of the Black Panther Critic video. So, how could Bloodshot improve? What would make Bloodshot the Hedgehog the talk of YouTube? Well, there's two ways to go about it. Maybe some actual art from someone who knows how to draw. Or maybe hire some Flash animators. But this could still backfire. That would take some very lengthy time to do, and not achieve the best result anyway since at the end of the day, it's still Sonic fanfiction. I don't think a Newgrounds Flash animation is going to change anything. Unless if it had some parody self-deprecation, there could be a chance. And this doesn't seem to be in spirit of what the creator of Bloodshot wanted it to be. He'll also never appear in Friday Night Funkin', so kiss that goodbye. Another way is for it to be an original idea, and thankfully, many of these characters can be translatable to something original. The story can easily strip away from the Sonic stuff, and Eggman could be replaced by an original character. But then you also have to tune down the Naruto stuff, and what's left is a basic revenge story. So, what was Bloodshot? Bloodshot was an attempt to make something cool, dark, and edgy, as seen in some of the Sonic games he played and the other anime he watched. But due to the creator's lack of skill, has to stick to recuts to recreate what he imagined, and due to the very poor quality, he was ridiculed for it. Although I think that if he obeyed all the criticisms he got, I don't think it would be accepted. In other words, it was doomed to fail from the start. Now I want to bring up that despite the hate, Bloodshot did have some fans. So I think to an extent, they are somewhat aware of its cheap quality. But they don't care, or they could see past it. And I think the people who are attracted to this type of content were probably just normal young people, who would later grow up to be embarrassed by their work. You know, like most fanfic writers. And chances are, they're just stepping stones for bigger things like art, writing, or drawing. But one thing I find a little unfortunate about the Bloodshot series is that the series itself is pretty harmless. Sure, the art looks like total crap, and it could barely be counted as art in the first place, but it doesn't do anything too strange other than making sloppy art. Sega would later embrace this type of fanbase for one of their newer games, Sonic Forces, where the main gimmick allows you to play as your own fan character. The main villain, Infinite, is based on edgy fan characters like Bloodshot. with a track that sounds exactly like Linkin Park, and I will admit, this part of Sonic Forces is great. Too bad the actual game was forgettable. So, anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you want, you can see some of my other content. Hope to see you soon.